Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, has Nigel Farage exposed a major Achilles heel with not only his support for Putin, but also more prominence being given to his deeply racist past, both long past and more recent? How comfortable will the British public be in voting for a man who threatened Jewish teenagers with the gas chamber and told them Hitler was right? Farage is trying to claim it's one person's word against another. It isn't. The witness testimony is overwhelmingly against Farage's version of events. Though I say Farage's version of events, such is the strength of testimony against him, including documentary evidence from the time, not just recent, that the little Hitler Youth agent no longer even tries to present a version of events. He has now fallen back on the notion that, it's too long ago, I can't quite remember. But a Jewish classmate remembers.
Most vivid memories of my school life is Farage repeatedly coming up to me and knowing that I was Jewish, saying Hitler was right and gas him, and that was frequently followed by us, kind of imitating the sound of escaping gas. And yeah, that's my abiding memory of him. And that sort of verbal abuse happened quite consistently over the year that we were together in the same class.
A Jewish teenager in the 1970s will certainly have been told about the relatives lost to the Holocaust. As he said himself, when you have that background, a sinister encounter like that, you don't forget. Also, he doesn't speak of one incident, but a deliberate campaign by Farage to single him out and torment him with the legacy of the Nazis. Farage no longer denies saying anything racist, but insists he would not have said anything intentionally harmful. Chasing after a Jewish lad for a full year talking about gas chambers and Hitlers is only something you would do if you wanted to harm someone. And it's not one person's word against another, as Farage claims. Others of their peers recall it too and have corroborated the testimony. And it's not just a case of sidling up to one Jewish teenager and making supportive references to the Nazi Holocaust. There is testimony of this sort of vile racism going on for years, right up until Farage was 18 at least. If Farage genuinely cannot remember making these sorts of comments over such a long period of time, it suggests he thought such sentiments were no more remarkable than what he had for breakfast back in those days. And to get why this moment is so critical, you just have to look at the political situation. Recent polls show a political landscape in turmoil. Projections suggesting Reform UK could win, 100, 150 seats, 200, more. A September MRP poll had them winning much more, almost government-forming figures, though Reform have fallen back in the polls a little since then. This is now a situation where Reform UK are no longer rank outsiders, but a serious prospect for government. The ticking of this time bomb didn't start this year. It's been there for over a decade, a consistent rhythm of controversy and inflammatory remarks. To understand the present, you have to look at the pattern, right? 2013. Channel 4 were first reporting the accusations of pro-fascist behaviour from the then UKIP leader at school. In that year, Farage also said he supported Muslim immigrants who integrate, but not those coming here to take us over. A year later, in 2014, he faced backlash for saying he'd be concerned if a group of Romanian men moved in next door. And when asked if he'd feel the same about German neighbours, he replied, "You know the difference." His rhetoric often zeroes in on immigration. He once famously blamed being late to an event on immigrants on the M4 motorway. His 2016 anti-immigration poster featuring a line of mostly non-white refugees under the slogan "Breaking Point" was widely condemned, some saying it echoed Nazi propaganda. After the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, he compared protesters to the Taliban. Shortly after, he was asked by LBC not to turn up to work anymore. And this isn't even the complete list, but it establishes a clear narrative. The defence has always been the same. It's just plain speaking, taken out of context, politically motivated attack by an out-of-touch elite. For his supporters, it's worked. It reinforced his image as a man unafraid to say what others were thinking. Each controversy was just another log on the fire of his anti-establishment brand. But a long pattern of behaviour is different from a single event, and this history forms the body of the time bomb, just waiting for a detonator. Recently, that detonator may have been triggered. The Guardian publishes a report detailing claims from more than a dozen of Farage's former classmates at his posh Dulwich College, these allegations are not vague. They are very specific, very disturbing. Farage's response, lesson in deflection, of course, he has categorically denied the allegations, claimed he can't remember everything that happened 50 years ago, and dismissed the claims as potential banter in a playground, being misinterpreted today. In other words, it was fine back in the 70s. No, it was especially not fine back in the 70s to attack Jewish people and say that they deserve to be thrown into the gas chamber. It was less appropriate then because it was much closer to living memory. He told reporters, quote, "I would never, ever do it in a hurtful or insulting way," and insisted he's never directly racially abused anybody. He insists there's a strong political element to the timing, suggesting they're politically motivated smears. Classic defence works on the basis of tribalism. Sound the alarm on attackers attacking you so that your in-group rushes to your defence without ever thinking things through. But while Farage dismisses the claims, the number of people coming forward, not active in party politics, makes the argument harder to sustain. Unlike a controversial policy statement, these are very personal accusations of a targeted abuse. It moves the conversation from the political to the personal. It's not about his policies, it's about his character. The question becomes, does this man have the basic decency to lead a diverse modern nation? So why has nothing really stuck to Farage before? Because it's been reported on before. He would like you to think this is only coming out now that he's getting close to power. No, it's been around for ages. This is the great mystery of his career, the Teflon factor. His supporters see a relentless smear campaign by a liberal media, they say, and a political establishment that despises him and his voters. In their eyes, these attacks aren't revelations, they're confirmation that he's a genuine threat to the status quo. He is their champion. An attack on him is an attack on them. The dynamic is amplified by the fractures inside Reform UK. The party is a fairly broad coalition of groups I discussed recently: frustrated traditional working class voters who feel abandoned by Labour, disillusioned Conservatives, younger voters angry about the cost of living. What unites them is a mistrust of mainstream politics. For this base, Farage's refusal to apologise and his framing of all criticism as an elite conspiracy isn't a weakness, it can be a strength. But there are signs that the Teflon coating is wearing thin. The party's attempt to professionalise have been chaotic. Its high-profile, now former chairman, Zia Yusuf, a Muslim businessman brought in to broaden the party's appeal, resigned in June before coming crawling back mere days later. The publicly cited reasons pointed to broader disagreements over the party's direction and internal culture. Yusuf basically left over Islamophobia. Although he returned days later in a different role, the incident still exposed those deep fissures between the party's hardline base and its new, more corporate leadership. It suggests the very act of moving towards power is creating internal stress. Farage has always been good at leading a protest movement, but governing, or preparing to govern, is a different beast entirely. The new allegations land in this more volatile, high-stakes environment. They aren't just about what a schoolboy might have said 50 years ago. They're about whether the man who wants to lead the country has the character and judgment for the job. So where does it leave us? Is this the moment the ticking time bomb finally detonates? Well, for years, Nigel Farage successfully argued that the controversies around him were just the price of speaking uncomfortable truths. He built a career as the defiant outsider, but the ground beneath him has shifted a little. His party isn't on the outside anymore, it's knocking on the door of Downing Street. The personal nature of these allegations makes them much harder to dismiss as just another political smear. They're a direct challenge to his character in a way that arguments over policy never can be. When you combine that with the internal instability of his party and the intense scrutiny that comes with being a real contender for power, the situation becomes quite fragile. Keir Starmer has been directing attacks on Farage's suitability for several months now, but Kemi Badenoch has now this week joined in on the act. This suggests that both Labour and the Conservatives think that Farage is vulnerable, that some weakness has been exposed. Smaug the Dragon has revealed his underbelly, and there's a bit not covered in dual-encrusted armour. Nigel Farage is a supporter of authoritarian dictators. This becomes clearer all the time. Want to know why Farage hates the EU? Because it represents the legacy of those in Europe who wanted to stop anyone like Hitler ever coming to power again. This racist behaviour isn't just from Farage's youth. He has allied himself with European groups who are also led and full of people who have praised Hitler. He has taken part in American discussion groups where anti-Semitic conspiracy theories were thrown around, which Farage either leaned into or at best failed to challenge. Farage's support for not just Hitler, but his racist ideology was not confined to one event as a teenager or even several years at school. It continues to this day, where he's just learned to be a little bit more discreet about what he says while potentially being recorded. He hasn't moved away from his racist days, he's just become more careful about giving away too much evidence. But a lifetime of racism was always going to build up a huge case file against him. It's just that the media haven't been interested in shining much of a spotlight on it before. Perhaps they reasoned that he was a fringe player. If so, his bid to become Prime Minister means that there is now a greater public interest angle. With Labour and the Conservatives both spotting the vulnerability here, is there a danger that Farage's racism is a ticking time bomb for Reform UK? A lot of it will depend upon what the British public think. Farage goes to great lengths to avoid Reform UK being associated with racists. He tried to claim that a Reform activist caught in racist statements last year was a Channel 4 plant. He's been suspending Reform UK councillors left, right and centre for racist remarks. This proves that Farage also believes, just like Starmer and Badenoch, that plenty of voters do not want to vote for Reform UK if they think it's a racist party. If the tag sticks, it will be a serious blow for Farage's ambitions. But there's no easy way to deal with evidence of racism on his part. He can't claim he's a media plant or suspend himself from the party. The one person in Reform UK who cannot be thrown under the bus if they are publicly outed for racism is Nigel Farage. All it takes is for the media to keep asking questions and watch as Farage increasingly melts down, like he always does when asked awkward questions. People think Farage is a calm and collected media performer. No, he isn't. He's an actor with his prepared lines, and journalists have allowed him to read from the script for too long. When he's actually asked to ad-lib, he falls apart. Do you think the media might start to ask more of those awkward questions as we get close to the election? How will Farage cope if the evidence of racism is reported to more of the public? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. Click the bell notification so you know when new videos are coming out. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.